Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. I will be your nerd today. My name is Bryan C.P. Steele. And if you've been following my channel, you already know that because I'm the only one that's been on camera aside from my dogs. Today, I mentioned alright, first off, I'm going to do a little kind of half apology. Not really an apology so much of a... Normally, I'm a really positive, upbeat, uplifting, all smiles kind of guy. And I got a couple of messages from... God, I have something in my eyeball right now. So, speaking of positivity, I'm positive that I have something in my eye. I received a couple of personal messages and whatnot that last week's episode... when the quote unquote when freelancing gets hard was a little deep and got a little dark, and I actually had a couple people be like, hey, how are you doing, like you seemed like you might have been a little down. I was kind of grasping at straws and a little at the end of my rope kind of bit, between dealing with YouTube Live not working and all kinds of other real life stuff. I was pulled a little thin, but as the case has proven itself, I'm not going, unless it's a dire emergency, I'm not going to let you guys, my loyal subscribers, down, because this is just as important to me to get this out, to talk about it and get it out of my brain, as it is hopefully entertaining for you guys and useful in some instances. But like I said, I wanted to give a little half apology. I'm not going to apologize for the mood I was in or the fact that the last video was a little deeper and more serious. I will simply say that not all of my videos are going to be cotton candy and rainbows, but hopefully I'll be able to stay positive and keep things on the up and up, kind of throughout, throughout this whole vlog thing. But if I want it to be real, if I want it to be cinema verite, oof, that's even too pretentious for me. But if I want it to be real, and I want the conversation to happen, organically in the way that it feels, there's going to be some times where I have to kind of, take off my my Peter Pan hat and get real. And that last week was kind of a real episode. So like I said, I'm not going to apologize for real, like, oh, I'm so sorry that life is hard sometimes. But I do want to say that I will do my best to make sure that I sporadically drop in videos that if I have a deep one that gets people really kind of inside themselves and thinking about stuff, or God's forbid that you're worried about me, I'll follow it up with something fun and exciting and whatnot. So, which is why today's episode, I'll get into the thick of it here in a second, but today's gonna be a way more positive day, way more positive. We're gonna ask a lot of questions. We're gonna dig real deep, but it's gonna be a more positive experience for everybody involved. I'm confident. So last week during the real episode, I mentioned that I should have some good news for this episode, and I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear what that good news is." Well, a couple of good newses. Good newses? Is that right? Ugh, awful. First and foremost, it sounds like my lovely bride, that Natalie has, probably, we're about 85 to 90% sure that she's gonna do this. That she has picked up another day job. which is good because it is a low stress, low physical stress, decent hours. It times in real well with when I've got to take the kids to school and stuff. It's for a company that we personally have used before. That we love the guys that we love the woman who owns it and runs it, and it also will help scratch that little itch that Natalie has to help people. So that's a plus. That's a big plus. We got some awesome news that I wasn't expecting, that I didn't know I was going to tell you about, which will alter a little bit of next week. That just occurred to me. I'm probably going to go. I'll have to record live from there. But all right, so Natalie's her art, Artemis portrait. We go to pop culture shows. This weekend we've got an autism awareness superhero themed show. That's a one-day show that we're going to. That's helping fundraising for autism awareness, and so that's a cool thing. But most of the shows that we do are like Comic-Cons, PopCon, those kinds of things. And there is a show that she has just been dying to do ever since originally like the lineup started coming out, called Fan Expo, out in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we got ourselves put on the waiting list months ago to try and get her a table, and they were like, it's all sold out, there's no way. Well, early last week we got a message from the FanX guys that they found a table for her. So we had to do some scrambling, and it didn't look, because as I said in last week's episode, that money's been tight lately, and things were starting to come together, but not necessarily ready to rock and roll. And doing one of these conventions is expensive. It easily a four digit for just a small a small artist setup. It's easily a 4 digits multiple times type of expense to get something like this set up, including boarding the dogs and the travel back and forth and gas and food and the Airbnbs while you're there, and there's a lot going on to these things. But so when we got the okay that she was going to be able to go, we started looking, and we were like, I hated to be that realism hammer, but I didn't think it was going to be something that we could do. And Natalie had posted on her Facebook page, her personal page, that she really wished she could do this. This would be a big leg up for Artemis. It's a great exposure. There's a lot of really cool people, like Hollywood people, that are going to be there. Several of which are friends of ours that we only get to see at these shows. And we were kind of bummed out. So she put this post up that she really wished that she should go. Although for business purposes they are, we like to keep these sorts of things anonymous. I'm not going to say anything, but if they are watching this video right now, we had some investors step forward and officially invest in Artemis Portrait to help get her artistic endeavors off the ground and get her to this show. And it warms my heart to know that there are people out there that want to see the arts succeed and want to see Natalie succeed, and that's awesome. So kind of in a 24-hour whirlwind of events, we are driving out to Utah next week to go to FanX. And set up her art booth at the Fan Expo, which is why I will try. I don't know how, it might be just a real short sort of, check-in video, maybe 15-20 minutes or so. But I'll do my damnedest to see if I can't go live from FanX. And if I can't go live, I'll at least try and record some video and maybe splice it all together to just kind of show how neat, how these shows kind of go. Because I know sometimes there's people that are like, I've never been to one of these shows. Well, maybe I'll get a chance to show you guys. I don't know how well that'll work, but I'll see what I can do. Again, technology being what it is, maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe it will be horrible, and you'll be like, oh, don't ever do that again. But that is why next week won't be a normal video launch for Tales. It'll either be a live video, or I might put up a few minutes of, hey, sorry, there's not going to be a video this week. Next week I'll do the full video, and we'll show you a bunch of stuff. So either way, just getting you forewarned about that. Let's see, that was a little bit of good news. What else? Oh, yeah. So, I had mentioned on a personal level, I'm going to take a drink from my drink. I had mentioned from a personal level that I was going to have some good news, or I should have some good news. I do. I have half of the good news that I thought I was going to have. And that's really only because the second half hasn't gotten back to me yet with the specifics. In volleyball terms, I have already bumped it. They have already set it up into the air, and now we are waiting for the other people involved to spike it down and score some points. So basically, I've been talking about how as a freelancer, contracts come and go. Steady work is always good, but you got to be careful when you set up a steady contract that you're not getting taken advantage of, and that you leave yourself open to be able to do other things that aren't going to compete with that. Well, as of this morning, technically last night, but or when you're watching this, technically 2 days ago, I accepted an offer to be basically a steady line developer / designer on a part-time basis. It's more like on retainer for Crafty Games, who have done such amazing things as Fantasy Craft and Spycraft and Mistborn. I have done some work with Crafty in the past, years ago, just a little bit of spot work here and there, and I've known one of the owners for ages. But we had spoken before Gen Con, at Gen Con, after Gen Con. It's funny that Gen Con's kind of the linchpin in the calendar. It's almost like a ADBC sort of thing. Before Gen Con, after Gen Con, the days of Gen Con. So we have been working on this, trying to figure out how this was going to work. It is not a full-time style position, so I'm still going to be able to do a lot of other cool stuff, working on my novels, working on other projects along the way, so long as they don't compete with the Crafty stuff. But yeah, so that's a huge weight off my shoulders, and more than anything, I mean, yeah, more than anything, it's a job, and jobs are good and whatnot. But I actually really do, I really dig the products that they put out, and Alex and Patrick, those are the owners. They are great guys with a lot of history in the industry and a lot of knowledge about how things work and how things go together, and not to mention just good people. Like they are solid folk that I would be happy to work with even on just a contract basis. But knowing that I'm doing an extended retainer sort of thing, as a line and design developer, that's fantastic. I love working with these guys, and I'm going to love working with them even more, going forward. I am not going to tell just yet what we're working on, but know this. Know that you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. Oh, Tales subscribers, you're going to hear a lot about this stuff. Mostly because you guys know me now. We're like best friends. I'd invite you to Thanksgiving. If I'm excited about something, if I'm jazzed about it, I'm going to come on here and I'm going to tell you all about it 10 times over. Now that I'm involved on a permanent basis, or a staff basis with a company, I've got to be careful not to divulge information or not to be a jerk and be like, haha, here's this stuff that you're not supposed to know about. But so just know that I'm going to be telling you cool stuff along the way, as that I can. But one of the primary reasons they are bringing me on board, I am extremely excited about. It is a fantastic opportunity, and it is, I think, it is something that a lot of you out there are going to be super jazzed to hear about, and hopefully get your little fingers in there. So I'm very, very excited moving forward. That's a really cool thing. The other half of my good news hasn't landed yet, so I'm not gonna jinx it. Knock on wood. That we. By saying, hey, here's what we're planning to do, but it's looking really, really good, and it's looking really, really positive that something else really cool is going to happen. And when that takes place, again, expect fireworks and lots of this is what I get to tell you. So good things on the horizon. Again, cotton candy and rainbows, unicorns barfing Skittles. Where's I going? Suddenly I got an image of a unicorn barfing up Skittles, and it threw me out of the way. All right, so let's see. Now, so that's a lot of good news. What else do I have for the week in Bryan? My kids are back at school officially. Both of them fully back in school, and they're having a good time. It always amazes me, how fast my kids are growing up. I've got one kid who this is the first year that he has decided that school lunch, not like up until now I had packed his lunch every day, or his mom had packed his lunch. That this was the year that he was going to be grown up enough to handle cafeteria lunch, the hot lunch by the lunch ladies and whatnot. And he's a picky eater. He is very much I don't know if I want that, sort of thing. So I kind of went into this with, all right, this is going to last a week. They're going to have one day of, here are your 3 options. And he's going to go, oh God, they're all terrible. I would like to take all of your French fries, please. And then the next day be like, hey, can you pack me lunch? Because that sucked. Been the exact opposite. He has every day. I talk to him every day, even when he's at his mom's house, and have been basically be like, "Hey, what'd you have for lunch today?" And he'll be super jazzed. Be like, "I had a banana and chicken dumplings and so it means a lot to me that he is getting over that his own hump, that own little a lump in his brain that says only the foods that I like are good foods, and that's awesome. As you can tell, I'm a foodie, and knowing that maybe in the future I might be able to introduce him to some more cool things, it's fantastic. So that's a plus. My stepdaughter, she's going to a new school that's more in town. So a little background bit. I live out in the middle of nowhere. Dayton, Indiana is a small community outside of an okay college town, like okay sized. But so she went to elementary school 2 blocks away from us. She walked to school every day, or took her scooter. It was like, not a big deal. This is the first time that she's had to take, I drive her to school, but then after school, she takes like a legitimate, like the city bus, not even a school bus, like the city bus. She has a little bus pass that the school gives her, and she takes that to her grandma's house. Or sometimes if this whole thing with Natalie's new job works out, she'll take it to Natalie's new job and hang out with her, do homework and whatever. But yesterday, there was a slight bus hiccup sort of thing, and she totally figured out how to do like bus transfer, take this bus to this bus to get to that. She figured all that stuff on her own. And there's that little dad part of me, that worried part that's like, oh God, there's things that are happening that I wasn't aware of. Helicopter. But it does still make me smile that she's figuring this stuff out. There are a lot of things that she still needs to figure out, but she's 11. She'll get there. It'll happen. She's a smart kid, and it's neat to see this. This is her first year that I've been seeing her get up and actually, I hate to sound like this, she actually cares about how she looks, her appearance, that she doesn't look like she just rolled out of bed. I don't care if we have a lazy day, whatever. You want to spend your day in your pajamas, that's fine. But she is starting to take pride in her outgoing, she doesn't want her friends to look at her with weird sideways eyes, and maybe that's a thing that people are like, well, that's kind of old fashioned, that you want the girl child to look good. I want the boy child to look good too. I hate it when Connor leaves here and his hair's all bleh, and I'm like, dude, brush your hair. This is the I'm gonna totally embarrass him if he watches this video. The day where he came home and gave me a hug, and I was like, oh, you need deodorant. You are now a little boy who needs deodorant, because whew. But yeah, just seeing them become more young adult people, it's awesome, and it warms my heart, and it is such a weird feeling to know that they're in that sort of flux, that they are still kids and they still love it when dad puts on a stuffed animal puppet show, or Connor and I will play with action figures on his floor, or we get into a Nerf fight, or things like that. They're still in that, they're totally down with that sort of mentality, that kid mentality. We can sit down and watch a goofy cartoon and all giggle ourselves stupid. But then I hear them talking on, over the Xbox headset to their friend, or Nori, goes to her friend's house and needs to use the cell phone to talk back and forth, so we know how to coordinate these things. I know they're in that middle range. I remember being in that sort of, I'm still a kid, I want to be a kid, I don't want to lose that kid factor, but I do want to experience these things that my life is leading me toward. And so I dig it. I get to see it. I won't lie, I get teary-eyed every once in a while. One of these days you're gonna have me. I'll be crying on one of these vlogs, because I'm gonna think about my son growing up and. But overall, it's something that that really kind of makes me a happy guy, is getting to see these kids be little people. So there's a big positive. Speaking of which, I've been excited to tell you guys about this, but I'll be more excited to be involved. So tonight, which is actually yesterday for you guys watching, or perhaps way before. It depends on. Okay, this video will come out on Friday, but technically I'm recording on Thursday. So tonight I get to take my son to his first ever music concert. I don't know if you can see that real close. We are going to see Weird Al. So Santa brought him the Weird Al tickets because over the last year or so, my kids have become a lot more musically oriented. You know, they actually dig listening to the radio. You know, we'll play the song game in the car, which is basically I plug my phone in and we listen to particular songs that they decide they want to listen to at the time. But over the last year, I showed Connor, listened, whatever, several Weird Al songs. And I remember one day we got in the car and Connor goes, "Can we listen to some Weird Al?" And I was like, "What? You actually want to listen to music with your dad?" And so we dove in, and I even went into some deep dives, some old like Dr. Demento stuff, and showed them everything. And Connor hooked it, absolutely just loves it. And so for Christmas, Santa brought him a pair of tickets to the Weird Al concert happening down in Indianapolis, and that's happening tonight. So I'm super excited that not only do I get to see Weird Al, because I've never seen him in public, or I've never seen him live. I've seen lots of concerts, but this is just one that's never happened. So it's my first Weird Al concert. It's Connor's first Weird Al concert and first anything concert. So tonight's going to be awesome, and I expect to be able to tell you guys next week or 2 weeks, depending on the thing. To expect to tell you guys soon that it was a great time and that we had a blast. Aside from that, let's see, what else? Is there anything else that I need to get into in this week in Bryan before we spend a little time to talk about the topic of the week? I don't think so. I think we're good. I wrapped up on some Fallout scenarios. I wrapped up on an expansion to Ultra Quest for Blacklist games. So like this week has just been a lot of me kind of tying things with a bow, which is perfect because it's the end of the month. And then next month, new things begin. Yeah, like it's been a good couple of days. A lot of uplifting awesomeness. I love. There's almost no better feeling than when I can close a file and let the client know, all right, hey, cool, my part is done. You know, awesome. Now let's see what the magic that you can do with it. And then the next big uplift, aside from the paycheck, is getting to see it when it's out in the world, when it's a thing. So fingers crossed that we'll have some cool products in the future with my fingerprints all over them. And as a segue into products and things, today's episode, I had asked a few weeks ago for some ideas from people about what kind of things I should talk about, and then things got deep and Gen Con and all that stuff. So one of the things that someone talked about is they wanted me to go on a DCEU, or for the uninitiated, the DC Comics extended universe, which is the term for basically their film franchise. They wanted me to go on a soapbox style rant about how amazing the DCEU is. Because for me personally, I am absolutely a DC fanboy, and I'm unapologetically so. I actually there have been situations where I'll get into conversations with some of my best friends, Jake, and they will start poking fun and ranting about DCEU products, and I legitimately, like, it's not I'm doing it to be funny, or I'm doing it to ham up the situation or be a drama llama. It's I absolutely adore these movies. They mean a ton to me personally, and on several levels emotionally. And some people might be like, well, that's awfully weird because they're crap, because they're wrong. But they mean a lot to me because I grew up with these comics. I love these comics and these characters, and there are just I love Star Wars the same way. I love there are certain aspects of the Marvel universe that I absolutely adore. Transformers, you can get me going on Transformers for days and days and days. There's all these specific things, but if someone were to say what is my number one fandom, like the number one thing that the hill in which I would die upon, it's DC. It's Superman, Batman, Aquaman. It's DC Comics, because I think, and again, we're entering into opinion territory. I think that they are better characters. I think they're better written. I think that some of them have got. It takes, speaking from a writer's standpoint, it takes a lot of skill to make a story about a character that is utterly impervious, and make it serious and make it a good story without turning it into a slapstick, goofy, making fun of ourselves all the time, kind of thing, because it is very hard to get in that kind of mindset. And I'm gonna digress, and people are gonna get, one of these days I'm gonna do a comic book themed thing, but that's not what today's about. Someone had said that I should do a soapbox rant about why the DCEU is so amazing, and then it got me thinking that maybe I shouldn't do that kind of piece, because it can get a little ranty, especially with me, and I will tend to tangent on things. But what I can do, what it did bring up, is it kind of made me hyper aware of a couple of other threads and communities and things that I'm involved in, that there are a lot of people out there that are we have really kind of entered we've entered the age of the fandom. Some people say toxic fandom, some people say rabid fandom, violent fandom, devoted fandom. And I think it's brand fandom, brand fandom, brand-based fandom is something that does affect our communities, our gaming communities, our social communities, because we get so invested. And I had a chance to wax philosophical about this, because I got into a conversation with somebody the other day about why they are always defending a particular thing. And hypocritical as it may have been, I didn't realize that I do the exact same thing with the DCEU. But it was... it came down to, they are so emotionally invested. Similar to one of my earlier videos, I had mentioned that games are important because they make us feel like our time on this planet isn't wasted. It's entertaining, it moves forward, it makes us fills that empty space with positive charge, happy endorphins. And I believe that it is the same when it comes to our fandoms. That we get such a jolt, such a happy moment out of our particular fandoms, that when someone comes along in this age of the internet, where it is very easy to get thousands of opinions like that, when you see those opinions, when you see someone that goes, oh, well, you're wrong for feeling that way. And again, I'm guilty of it too. So don't. Bryan will hang his head in shame in a few areas when it comes to being angry about other people liking things. But the fandoms themselves, I think that because we get such a huge charge off of these particular things, that when someone steps in, whether it's an electronic anonymous nobody, in fact, actually, that might make it worse. That it's just this name on a website, that it makes you and maybe, hell, I'm gonna dig deep a little bit. Maybe seeing it. I'm gonna sneeze. Are we good? Are you alone? No more sneezes? No more sneezes. That we see it in print. There is something about seeing it permanent on the internet that makes it more. It gives it more emphasis, gives it more punch. Even though it is no different than me walking down the street and bumping into somebody and they go, Man of Steel sucks. And I go, wait, what? I hate you. It's no different than that, except for the fact that you're looking at it. You're seeing it. You can hit that page refresh, and it's there, and it's there again, and it's there again. Unlike a conversation where once it's been said, I can forget that happened. It doesn't mean that it's going to go on longer. It just means that that one person that I'll ignore that moment or whatever. When it's on the internet, which I know people say the internet is forever, once it's out there and it's on those critic sites and it's on the Board Game Review and it's on Amazon and it's on Yelp, it's there forever. Unless, something happens and they decide to take it down. But generally speaking, when it comes to our brains, we go, okay, that's there. And there are tens of thousands or less or more people that are going to see that. And that might sway their opinion, and deep down, we don't want to be wrong. We don't want, even though it's all opinion based. And anybody who's like, it's a demonstrable fact that this movie is terrible, whatever, shut your mouth. That we get that enjoyment out of it, we get that passion, we get that artistic connection, and it doesn't matter if the rest of everyone doesn't. The rest of the world cannot. But deep down, that little child that's buried in the pit of our subconscious, they want someone to high five because they love it too. They don't want someone to be like, ugh, you like that? You're wrong. Even though it's all opinion based. You don't want that. So what that does is that it fosters these. Initially, it just sort of created conversational fandoms, like you'd get together with your friends over drinks and you'd talk about some stuff. Somebody might say something, you'd be like, ugh, shut your mouth, or back and forth. You'd have debate and conversation, but it would be localized. Insert the internet. Now you've got fandoms that grow at exponential rates on both sides of the coin. You get hate that builds into a snowball, and someone who's never seen a single frame of a single movie, well, I heard 20,000 people on Rotten Tomatoes, which I can go on an entire rant about that website, but I won't. Not here. People know I think the website is terrible. It was a hammer to good taste, and has been absolutely instrumental in the creation of toxic fandoms in our society. So let's just move along before I go on a side rant and waste everybody's time. But it's insert the internet, and now you've got people, tens, thousands, hundreds, whatever, of people that are angling against your opinion or for it. Whatever you basically get. Instead of it being a conversation, you get sides built up. You get echo chambers, and it creates this sort of animosity between I'm right, you're wrong. When at the end of the day, it's all opinion. Unless your two sides are 2 + 2 is 4, 2 + 2 is 5. Unless you have someone that is literally wrong and they've built a force about it, everything's opinion based, and that's something that I think that the internet, because it does give some place for everyone with access to a computer to create a semi-permanent home for your opinion, and it turns that opinion into a published thought or whatever. And I think it lends more subconscious credence to it, and that's how these fandoms become what they become. Now, where they shift from happy fandom to toxic fandom, I don't know. I'm not going to claim to understand that. I just know that a lot of people are extremely polarized these days. There are very few people that can just say something is okay. We are a hyperbolic society. Everything is 110%. Everything is either the worst or the best. We use the term literally, constantly, figuratively. I think that collectively as a society, we've just become more hyperbolic, and that's what has led to these. It isn't just this movie had some bad moments in it, or this comic had a bad couple of panels, or I don't care for this game personally because it has this implement in it. It is, this is the worst game ever, no one should play it, or this movie is terrible, that director should burn in hell. It's very shifted to the one way or the other. And I think that to get back to the original topic at hand, what I said the original topic was going to be is we were talking about or what I wanted to talk about was brand kind of brand fandom, especially in gaming. In the last, let's say 5 years, 5-6 years, there's always been people that are like, I am a D&D hardcore, since the age of TSR through the years, or somebody who's like, there's a big community in the Shadowrunners that are like, I remember when FASA put out the original, like that kind of thing. There's a lot of that kind of mentality, but there are also it goes beyond just, in the case of the Shadowrun, you don't get very many people that are like, well, FASA can do no wrong, or could do no wrong, or now it's Catalyst can do no wrong. It's based off of the IP. It's based off of, they think Shadowrun is the coolest thing ever, so they follow that like a band roadie. No matter where it goes, they've got that. The Shadowrun brand is what they love and what they adore. What I think we're running into a little more now is you get people who are fans of the company behind it. I had a couple of cool things. So, like, for instance, Games Workshop. In this case, a Age of Sigmar Dryads box. That I had that lying around. I love 40K. I loved Warhammer Fantasy. I love Blood Bowl. I adore Necromunda. I kind of want to try Warcry. But one of these things, that last little 2-minute long thing, all of those games I was talking about, those are all Games Workshop games. And there is something to be said for as a company, I'm always watching to see what they do because I love a lot of their products. And I would say in the last year or so, maybe two, I've grown apart from some of them because I'm not a fan of where some of the things have gone. But I'm not giving up on them as a company. There's a lot of times people are like, I'm selling off all my 40K stuff because 40K is garbage. Or, you know, I'm done with Privateer Press. I'm done with War Hordes. I'm selling all my things. I think that's kind of what I'm talking about here is instead of taking it one game at a moment, like, you know, I might love Blood Bowl, but I may not care for Warcry. That a lot of people are viewing things that it is difficult when you're discussing things with fanboys or fangirls, fandom collectively, that those kinds of things get separated. You know, you get people that'll be like, oh, I love Blood Bowl, and like maybe the next thing out of their mouth is, you know, I haven't played Age of Sigmar, or, you know, I used to play a lot of fantasy. They will stick to that same family, that Games Workshop family of games. You know, I mentioned earlier about the DC Comics sort of thing is. Luckily for that brand, for me, there's not a single company out there that I can be loyal to. You know, like there's the Cryptozoic does the deck builder. You know, for a while there, WizKids did their the DC HeroClix, which I have a ton of. You know, like I was way more into the DC brand all over the place than with a particular company. And I think that is, for me personally, I think that's actually more beneficial, because if I were to glom on to, say, Cryptozoic and be like, oh man, Cryptozoic does the DC game, I love Cryptozoic, and then everything that they do, that I'm like, I gotta have this, I gotta have this, I gotta have this, I think that because when looking at a company, trying to be a brand fan of a company's products, it can get kind of crazy. You know, for a while there, I was working with SEMA Unlimited, Kumani or Not, formerly known as Kumani or Not. And if you go onto Kickstarter, they have got fans that are rabid. It doesn't matter what CMON puts out. They're like, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna back it because it's gonna be amazing. And we all know that that's not true. That, like, even personally, I'm well aware. Like, okay, here it is. It's on the internet. It's forever. I am well aware that my fandom, my DCEU adoration, puts some colored glasses on me when I see one of their products. Now, that being said, I do believe that I'm an intelligent enough person with a background in plot structure and writing that I can see where things are going, and I can argue that a lot of people don't, and they're... Okay, not going to do that. Not going to be negative, not going to be ranty. Okay. But so let's focus. That I am aware that Aquaman, for instance, my favorite DCEU movie, that a lot of my love for that movie comes from my love for the character, comes from my love of the old stories. That I see that movie with a different light and a different different framing than the average person does. I am aware of that. I completely agree with it. That if someone looks at me and says, well, you know, it's not that great of a movie, you just really have your aqua goggles on, I will agree with them. I do. I've got my aqua goggles on, and I cried in the theater, not because of the emotional moment on the screen, because it was an emotional moment for me. That it was the movie that I waited 30 years to see. I get that. I think that a lot of that is the same way when it comes to some of these corporate brand fandoms. One of my very, very close friends, Daniel, I know you're listening, he is an absolute Games Workshop brand just fanatic. Much. He will eat it up with a spoon. Anything that they put out, he is going to at least give it a go. He's going to take a look at it. He is going to try his damnedest to enjoy it, and then he's going to try his damnedest to get other people to enjoy it. Situations that with other games that he will 100% stand against. Like, why would you ever do this in X rando game? That it hurts it makes the game worse. Why would you be like that? But if it happens in a Games Workshop game, well, that's just part of the game, man. This is what it is. Suck it up, deal with it. That's how this game is now. And a lot of that forgiveness, a lot of that personal that personal skew comes from the fact that he has thousands of hours, I would say thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars invested in Games Workshop stuff. And we are, when we want to look at these things, we go, okay, we've got all this time, all of this money, everything invested into these into this company, into this thing. I'm going to support it because I want other people to see that I made the right choice. And I want them to hopefully make that same choice. And especially when it comes to games, I want them to also enjoy this like I do. And I think that that's where these corporate brand isms come from. CMON as a company, or I'm sorry, they rebranded Come On. I don't know. It's silly. You know what? I worked there twice for a total of like 7 years between the two frames. Everyone had always said CMON, including the people who started the company. So if you want to rebrand it to say Come On, that's fine. It's silly. All right, rant over. The number of different designers and games and imprints and things that they bring in, it's astronomical, and they're all different. There's a lot of Zombicides, and there's a lot of this, and this game might have 4 or 5 different versions of it, but it doesn't mean that if you like Arcadia Quest, if you like, was it Arcadia Quest? Arcadia? Why am I drawing a blank? If you like that game, the chibi action adventure game, it's silly to say, well, you obviously, if you love that, then you're totally going to love Project Elite. They're totally different games in different genres with different art styles and different play styles. They're drastically different. But someone who is a CMON brand fan is going to say, oh, CMON does no wrong. You're going to love this. Or someone who says, well, it's the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, CMON's amazing. They love it. You should really get behind this game. Now, that's not to say it's a bad game. It's a good game. I love the game. But that shouldn't be your reasoning. Your reasoning should be, it's a solid game. You shouldn't be waving the CMON flag as your reason for it, or flying the Fantasy Flight flag. Fantasy Flight flag? That shouldn't be your... for instance, Fantasy Flight is recently announced their Marvel miniatures game. The Marvel Crisis or whatever. The models are gorgeous. I, personally, I think the game is not for me. And that's not just to say that it's because it's Marvel. Because I like a lot of Marvel stuff. Don't say that I don't. It is the game is not for me. I did the demo at Gen Con, and I did not find the comic book action game that I was looking for. I much prefer the Night Models Batman Miniatures game or DC EU game, and that's not a brand thing. That's actually just a rules-based thing. Again, the models are gorgeous. They're pricey, and that weighs into it. Right now my money situation, I got to vote with my wallet, and that's going to be an expensive hobby. Is people who want to get into that Marvel game. So, that being said, I talked to some people after the show, and I was like, "Hey, did you get a chance to see this?" And they're like, I didn't get a demo in, but I saw the models. I can't wait for it." And I'm like, "All right, cool, And then I asked why. I was like, what can't you wait for? Oh, well, I play X-Wing. I play, X-Wing Armada. And Fantasy Flight's awesome. So you play a game about spaceships that has nothing to do with this other game at all. And that's your reasoning. Brand fans. And that's what today's episode was. I mean, most of it was me talking about cool stuff earlier, but I think that's where I hope as a freelancer that I get to put my fingers in lots of brands. I want to work a little bit for this company, a little bit for this company, a little bit for that company. I want someone to look at my CV, look at my product bibliography and go, man, he worked for a lot of people. That was one of my favorite things when I was at Mongoose, is that we got to work with Starship Troopers, with Babylon 5, with Conan, with Traveler, with RuneQuest. I got to put my fingers in all of these different worlds and flex, and it was awesome. And I think that is something that, brand strength has got, it has legs. There's something about having a strong brand that you're working with. But I think that we as gamers and as consumers and as friends and conversationalists and people who don't want to piss off our friends by looking at them and being like, blah, 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 this is terrible, is we need to be better about looking at things as the individual unit and not as a part of a greater catalog, unless it is part of a greater catalog. If it was an expansion to a game, obviously you can look at it as part of the rest of the game. But, don't look at something and say, well, this is awful because this thing that came out before it in the same universe is awful. Are they related? Sure. Are they part of the same thing? Maybe not. Maybe it's a different game. Maybe it feels different. Maybe this novel is better than that novel because the writer is different. Or the subject matter. Maybe you just didn't like the subject matter in the first one. I think that blindly saying things are awesome or blindly saying things are bad without trying it first, because of our own personal biases and our own, the lenses that we're currently wearing, I think that it does way more harm than good. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is, don't. There's nothing wrong with being a diehard fan of something. If you are a Marvel fanboy and you are like, the MCU is the best thing ever, Iron Man 3 and Thor Ragnarok are the coolest movies ever, I will disagree with you vehemently, but it's awesome that you have that passion and that you have something that you're on, that you dig. But what maybe you shouldn't do is just automatically assume or say, well, this next thing that Marvel's going to do is going to be amazing. Because it might not be. And again, I know I'm guilty of it. 100%. When it comes to things that I'm super passionate about, I tend to come out of the gate expectant and it's going to be amazing. It can backfire on you. If you, for instance, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I love the prequels. That's right. Said it on the internet. I love the prequels. I think they're fun. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in them. Ha! Last Jedi, Episode 8, bothers me. There's some cool stuff in it. There really is. There's a lot of stuff that's not cool, in my opinion. I have to do everything in my power not to go into December, going into Episode 9, going into the end of the Skywalker franchise. I don't want to go into it with preconceived notions of this is going to be awful based off of, you know, what happened in The Last Jedi, or this is going to be amazing based off of what has happened before. You know, I've got to do my best to try and be the Star Wars fanboy that I was before hyperbole. You know, I'm just excited for more Star Wars. And it's hard. It's hard not to have my opinions going into things, especially because we are inundated with, you know, trailers and trailers of trailers, and here's the teaser of the trailer, and the streaming service, and here's 15 things that aren't going to come out until 2022. You know, we are in that information age that we know too much, and what that does is that it actually it skews our opinion of the things that are happening now. And I'm kind of not sure where I was going with this, is that, you know, I would have considered myself a Star Wars brand fan. Is Star Wars puts it out, I can't, whatever, love it. Then Ahsoka happened, and that changed my opinion. But I'm still there to a certain degree. It's hard for me not to, when I see something from Star Wars, not to go and get a little excited, a little fanboyish. But I've come around to the concept that everybody makes mistakes, and that everybody's opinions are different. I'm doing my best not to throw stones or wave flags for things based off of their brand. And I'm not trying to make fandom seem like it's wrong, because it isn't. Being an excited fan about something, and being an unforgiving fan about something, there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that, like, old school Trekkies, people who have been through it all, think you guys are awesome. I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to be aware of our brand fandom. We need to be aware that, you know, just like I am well aware that DC can really do, for the most part, really do no wrong in my eyes. I can look at something and go, you know, that wasn't the greatest movie, it had its flaws, or that wasn't the greatest show, it had its flaws, that wasn't the greatest comic, it had its flaws, but I loved it to death, and I can't wait for the next one. I think that there's a huge difference between that and me saying I love it to death and everyone else should, and that everyone else is wrong for not liking it. I will admit that there have been times where I have been tongue-in-cheek and been like, well, you're wrong for your opinions, but that's not really the case. I think that when people have, I'm going to be blunt here, I think when people have dumb reasons for not liking things, or refuse to listen to the reasoning behind things, or, you know, maybe they missed the intent, or maybe they are looking at it from an angle that, from the angle in which they're looking at it, yeah, something is goofy and wrong, but maybe if you took a step back and looked at it from a different angle, you could see, oh, hey, maybe this is the way this was supposed to go. That, I think, that's where it makes me crazy, when someone is pooping on my fandom because they've just said that this is dumb, and that's how it is. Have a debate. Have a discussion. Have a conversation over drinks and nachos. Your fandom shouldn't be either. It should be an open door. You want other people to enjoy it. It shouldn't be one that you slam shut and say, nope, Either you've got the password, and that password is hell yeah, you're awesome, or you can't get in. And I think that that's where my thing about brand fandom really kind of comes into play. Is there are too many things out there these days that people are either you love it the way I love it, or you're wrong. And we need to take a second. We need to take a breath and realize that it with very few exceptions, it's all opinion. And you can't really prove someone's opinion wrong unless their opinion is actually not an opinion and they're trying to state something off as a fact. Like, if someone is to say, in the Marvel universe, Paul Rudd wasn't really Ant-Man. And that's my opinion. That's not an opinion. That's fact, and you're wrong. It's a fallacy. But you see what I mean. All right, I just look at the timer. We've gone over time a little bit for what I like for these videos. Mostly going to spend way too much time earlier talking about cool, positive, cool stuff that's happening. But back to it. We are passionate creatures. Gamers tend to be even more passionate than the average person because we've got these things that we love. Just remember that other people love stuff too, and that just like you don't like people pooping on you the things that you love, maybe don't poop on the stuff that they love. Voice your opinion, whether it's negative or otherwise, but perhaps try and pull some of that hyperbole out of it, pull some of that exaggeration out of it, and even just prefacing your opinion with, now, this is just my opinion, can help. It's opening a conversation about, let's talk about something, let's talk about this, let's explore our opinions, rather than I'm going to state this as fact and you're wrong if you don't believe it, is a faster way to arguments, the faster way to people put up walls. And when you put up walls, suddenly it's become a conflict. And that's how toxic fandoms happen. Is you're right, is the I'm right, you're wrong, and there is no discussion involved. That's when everything becomes an argument or a battle. And I don't know about you, I get real tired real fast fighting those battles. So maybe take a second and just try and avoid them and enjoy the conversation. Enjoy the stuff that you enjoy. Let them enjoy what they enjoy, and choose to fight those battles specifically. And hopefully with people that understand that you're not fighting them as a person, you're fighting on behalf of your opinions. So all that aside, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll have more cool news. Hopefully next week I'll be able to go live from FanX. If not, I'll see you at least in 2 weeks. And get out there and have fun. Play some games. That's what it's all about.